Proverbs 2:17. Ha'ozevet aluf neoreha, va'et brit Eloheha shachecha. So we have here in verse 17 a continuing description of this strange woman from the previous verse, or the adulterous woman. And here what we find is the T-form participle. Now the T-form participle verbal root here is azav, and notice what we get is this extra tav here at the end, or this extra T sound. So this is why we call it a T-form participle. It takes a seglet vowel pattern. Notice the two segols there, ha'ozevet, and you can kind of hear that evet, evet, melech, melech, right? So that seglet vowel pattern is what we're talking about there. We've got the definite article here at the front, and so this being a T-form participle, which is feminine singular, is further defining this strange woman or adulteress from the previous verse. So the one who has abandoned, or the one who abandons, if we think of it more as a generic present, which I think is the right idea here, the one who abandons the companion of her youth, and the companion of her youth here would be her husband. So she's abandoning that relationship, so to speak. And then we get a further description of what this is. So this, I don't know what you would call this, parallelism, synthetic, or something like that. Maybe it's, you get point A here, and then point B furthers that a little bit. And what we get here is what it means to abandon the companion of her youth is the covenant of her God she forgets. And so she forgets the covenant of her God. Andrew Steinman, in his Concordia commentary on Proverbs, says that this refers to the covenant of marriage. And so the covenant of her God is not that she's broken the Abrahamic covenant or the Mosaic covenant. I think all of that is implied here, but more specifically, it is that marriage covenant that is not just a covenant between husband and wife, but is also a covenant between the two of them and the Lord. And she has forgotten this covenant of her God, the one she made to her husband. Now, the last verb here that I just circled, we have a call perfect, third feminine singular. Notice the kametz he at the end. The verbal root is shakach, to forget. And then notice we have this pausal form. You might recognize this form most often with a schwa right here, but instead of the schwa, because of the pausal form, we get the full vowel written out here as a tsere. Now, this perfect I also would translate as a present tense. And so this is some of the evidence of why you might hear scholars talk about the Hebrew verbal system being driven more by aspect than by tense. Aspect versus tense. Tense would be, the perfect is a past tense. Aspect would be the perfect is a completed action. So past tense completed action. However, I think in this case, and oftentimes with verbs expressing a state of mind or something like this, here forgetting would be maybe quasi-stative for a state of mind. These verbs often are translated in the present tense, or are best understood in the present tense, even in the perfect. And it's a completed action with this mindset. The mindset is done, so the aspect still works, but tense, we're going to go with present tense instead of past tense. And so she forgets. These are general descriptors. She abandons, she forgets. These are general descriptors, not telling you when in time she did this. This is just generally time. So this is where that present comes in. If you want to look at that use of the perfect a little bit more, you can check out Williams' Hebrew syntax. This is in section 163, and it's what he calls an experience perfect. Arnold and Choi also have this one in section 3.2.1c. Let me put that here. Arnold and Choi, section 3.2.1c, and then Juan Morioka also in section 112a. Now, just so you know this, I got all of these references from the footnote that is in Williams. So again, just how helpful Williams can be in tracking down some of these reference grammars and intermediate grammars and looking at them a little more closely in order to check mark and see things like this. So she abandons the companion of her youth and the covenant of her God, namely that marriage that she made, she forgets.